Welcome to Books in the Freezer, a podcast dedicated to the deliciously disturbing world of horror fiction. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today I am talking about the horror books that are coming out in the second half of the year. So this is my most anticipated releases for 2025. Okay, and I do feel like I say this every year, but oh my God, this is looking like an amazing year for horror. Just this list. There are so many books I am dying to read. There are a few that I have already read that I am very excited to talk to you about. But before we get into that, I just wanted to tell you about a few different ways you can support the podcast. One of those ways is to become a member of our Patreon community. There are a lot of fun things going on Patreon. At the Malevolent Spirit level, we just started a new podcast series called The House at the End of Fear Street, where I am making my way through the Fear Street books by R.L. Stine for essentially the first time. It has been such a blast. No one prepared me for how absolutely bonkers these books are, and these are just such fun conversations to have. So those episodes are available in full at patreon.com/booksinthefreezer. But if you're looking for a free way to support the podcast, you can always drop a few nice words at Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, you can leave a star rating. So big thank you to those of you who have already taken the time to do that. Okay, now let's get to talking about some books, obviously starting with July. And starting off with a book coming out today, I am talking about Come Knocking by Mike Bockoven. When Come Knocking came to Los Angeles, the interactive theater production that took over 6 floors of an abandoned building was met with raves, lines for tickets, and reviews calling it the must-see experience of a generation. After dozens of people were killed and hundreds injured during one bloody night of chaos during the show's run, the nation was captured by one inescapable question. How could this happen? As the dust settles, investigative reporter Adam Jakes is tasked with uncovering the truth behind the massacre. Through a series of gripping interviews with survivors, cast members, and witnesses, Jakes pieces together the chilling reality behind what was supposed to be the ultimate theater experience. So this is one I have read, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. If you were a fan of Fantastic Land by Mike Bockoven, I think you will enjoy this. It has a similar setup to Fantastic Land in that we are learning about a tragic event that has happened through character interviews, and you, the reader, are piecing everything together based on what we learn from these different perspectives. I loved the descriptions we got of the Come Knocking show, which was this real immersive theater experience that proved to be really divisive. Obviously, it had its devoted fans. Some people thought it was pretentious and too highbrow. This book made me anxious. I think there's a very American fear of being in a busy, crowded place like that and always having in the back of your mind the possibility of violence. It spoke to that. It also spoke to online radicalization, and I think it's a very timely read, and I definitely enjoyed it. It did stress me out. So that is Come Knocking by Mike Bockoven, and that is available today from Skyhorse. And also coming out today, we have My Ex, the Antichrist by Craig DiLouie. 1998. Lily Lawler and Drake Morgan form a punk band. Drake inspires faith in some, fear in others. Lily is a believer. 1999. A battle of the bands ends in a shocking death and a riot that claims the lives of 3 teenagers. 2009. At the height of her stardom, Lily walks into a police station and confesses to murder. Now, the band has refused to talk to the press about the night of the riot, Lily's confession, or anything else. It's been over a decade. But Lily has finally agreed to an interview, and the band is following her lead. What follows is a story of prophecy, death, and apocalypse. A story about love and love lost. A story about the Antichrist. Maybe it's all true. Maybe none of it is. Either way, this is their story, and they're sticking to it. This sounds really fun. I adored The Children of Red Peak by Craig DiLouie. I loved episode 13. I'm very excited for this, and this is going to be coming out under Run For It, which is the new horror imprint under Orbit. So that is coming out today. That is My Ex, the Antichrist by Craig DiLouie. And coming out July 29th from Atria, we have Angel Down by Daniel Kraus. Private Cyril Bagger has managed to survive the unspeakable horrors of the Great War through his wits and deception, swindling fellow soldiers at every opportunity. But his survival instincts are put to the ultimate test when he and 4 other grunts are given a deadly mission. Venture into the perilous no man's land to euthanize a wounded comrade. What they find amid the ruined battlefield, however, is not a man in need of mercy, but a fallen angel, seemingly struck down by artillery fire. This celestial being may hold the key to ending the brutal conflict, but only if the soldiers can suppress their individual desires and work together. As jealousy, greed, and paranoia take hold, the group is torn apart by their inner demons, threatening to turn their angelic encounter into a descent into hell. I have been excited for this since the moment it was announced. As I feel like all of you know, I was obsessed with Whalefall. It was one of my favorite reads of the year. This sounds like a very intense book for several reasons, but I'm especially drawn in by the group dynamics of this group having to work together to save this angel. And I am just very curious about the possibility of them turning on each other and the things that drive that. So obviously the World War I setting too. So very curious about this one. I will definitely be picking it up. That is Angel Down by Daniel Kraus, coming out July 29th from Atria. And coming out July 22nd from Random House, we have Mayra by Nicky Gonzalez. It's been years since Ingrid has heard from her childhood best friend Mayra, a fearless rebel who fled their hometown of Hialeah, a Cuban neighborhood just west of Miami, for college in the Northeast. But when Mayra calls out of the blue to invite Ingrid to a weekend getaway at a house in the Everglades, she impulsively accepts. From the moment Ingrid sets out for the house, danger looms. The directions are difficult, she's out of reach of cell service, and as she drives deeper into the Everglades, the wet maw of the swamp threatens to swallow her whole. But once Ingrid arrives, Mayra is, in many ways, just as she remembers, with her sharp tongue and effortless, seductive beauty, still thumbing her nose at the world. Before they can fully settle into the familiar intimacy of each other's company, their reunion is spoiled by the reemergence of past disagreements and the unexpected presence of Mayra's new boyfriend, Benji. The trio spend their hours eating lavish meals and exploring the labyrinthian house, which holds as much mystery and danger as the swamp itself. Indoors and on the grounds, time itself seems to expand, and Ingrid begins to lose a sense of the outside world and herself. I really love the cover for this, and I feel like this remote, swampy, kind of suffocating setting is the perfect place to explore ideas of toxic friendship and the importance of early friendship and like the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. So I'm very interested to read this. That is Mayra by Nicky Gonzalez, and that will be coming out July 22nd. And ending July with House of Beth by Kerry Cullen, which will be coming out July 15th. After a heart-wrenching breakup and a shocking incident at her job as an overworked assistant at a literary agency, Cassie retreats to her hometown in New Jersey along the Delaware River. There, she reconnects with her high school best friend Eli, now a widowed father of two. Their bond reignites, and within a few short months, Cassie is trading her bustling New York City life for homeschooling, nature walks, and cooking lessons with her reserved neighbor, Joan. But Cassie's fresh start is anything but peaceful. She still misses her ex-girlfriend, and she grapples with harm OCD, her mind haunted by graphic and gory images. In their secluded house nestled in the woods, she tries to find solace, but the shadow of Beth, Eli's late spouse, a committed homemaker and traditional wife, looms large, permeating every corner of their home, from the decor to the rhythms of daily life. Soon, Cassie starts hearing a voice narrating the house's secrets. This mysterious presence grows stronger, guiding Cassie down a path to uncover the truth about Beth's untimely death. I read this earlier this year and I loved it. I thought it was a great debut that was exploring queerness and what it means to live authentically. The idea that you can't outrun yourself everywhere you go, there you are. And I really liked in Anna Rose Reed's review, she kind of called it like an anti-Hallmark movie, because I think it explores what happens after the girl from the big city goes back to her hometown and reconnects with her childhood best friend, who is now a hot widower with two kids. What happens after she slides into that role? You know, let's talk about that. So I really liked it. That is House of Beth. That will be coming out July 15th from Simon & Schuster. And moving into August with Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. This will be coming out August 12th from Tor Nightfire. 4 years ago, an unthinkable disaster occurred. In what was later known as the Low Probability Event, 8 million people were killed in a single day, each of them dying in improbable, bizarre ways, strangled by balloon ropes, torn apart by exploding manhole covers, attacked by chimpanzees wielding a typewriter. A day of freak accidents that proved anything is possible, no matter the odds. Luck is real now, and it's not always good. Vera, a former statistics and probability professor, lost everything that day, and she still struggles to make sense of the unbelievable catastrophe. To her, the LPE proved that the god of order is dead, and nothing matters anymore. But when Special Agent Lane shows up on Vera's doorstep, she learns he's investigating a suspiciously and statistically impossible lucky casino. He needs her help to prove the casino's success is connected to the deaths of millions, and it's Vera's last chance to make sense of a world that doesn't. Because what's happening in Vegas isn't staying there, and she's the only thing that stands between the world and another deadly improbability. Listen, Chuck Tingle, auto by author. Chuck Tingle writing an epidemic of absurd deaths. It's giving Final Destination, and I am here for it. I am seated. Give this book to me now. I love this as this like tortured statistics and probability professor. Her brain has been broken because the world doesn't make sense anymore. I love this journey for her. I cannot wait to see what Chuck Tingle does with this because it sounds incredible. That is Lucky Day. That will be coming out from Tor Nightfire this August. And coming out August 5th from Tor, we have Black Flame by Gretchen Felker-Martin. Ellen, a deeply closeted lesbian, spends all her time in solitude, restoring films at a failing archive in New York City. When a group of German academics present her with a print of an infamous exploitation film believed to have been destroyed during the Holocaust, Ellen finds herself forced to confront her own repressed sexuality. And the more she works on the restoration, the more obsessed she becomes over its depictions of occult practices and queer debauchery. She's soon convinced that the acts portrayed in the film are not fiction, but reality. And they're happening to her. Ooh, this sounds good. I love a main character who has gone through some stuff and who is prone to, the odd obsessive spiral. Sometimes at the hand of a haunted film. This says perfect for fans of Midsummer and night films. So I'm in. That is Black Flame by Gretchen Felker-Martin. That will be coming out August 5th from Tor. And on August 19th from Berkeley, we have The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Canas. In 1765, plague sweeps through Zacatecas. Alba flees with her wealthy merchant parents and fiancé Carlos to his family's isolated mine for refuge. But safety proves fleeting as other dangers soon bear their teeth. Alba begins suffering from strange hallucinations, sleepwalking, and violent convulsions. She senses something cold lurking beneath her skin, something angry, something wrong. Elias, haunted by a troubled past, came to the New World to make his fortune and escape his family's legacy of greed. Alba, as his cousin's betrothed, is none of his business. Which, of course, is why he can't help but notice the growing tension between them every time she enters the room. And why he notices her deteriorate when the demon's thirst for blood gets stronger. In the fight for her life, Alba and Elias become entangled with the occult, the church, long-kept secrets, and each other, not knowing that one of these things will spell their doom. I am forever obsessed with the way Isabel Canas can take these historical settings, these horror premises, and find a way to write characters that are brimming with sexual tension in these. Yes, can we take this horror premise and make it sexy? Isabel Canas can. I'll tell you that. So I am looking forward to that. That is The Possession of Alba Diaz, and that will be coming out from Berkeley August 19th. And on August 12th from Saga, we have The Game in Yellow by Hailey Piper. A kink-fixated couple, Carmen and Blanca, have been in a rut. That is, until Blanca discovers the enigmatic Smoke in an understreet drug den, who holds pages to a strange play, The King in Yellow. Read too much and you'll fall into madness. But read just a little and pull back, and it gives you the adrenaline rush of survivor's euphoria, leading Carmen to fall into a game of lust at a nightmare's edge. As the line blurs between the world Carmen knows and the one that she visits after reading from the play, she begins to desire more time in this other world, no matter what horrors she brings back with her. I am very excited for this. I actually just bought a copy of The King in Yellow, so I'm going to try to have it read before reading this. But I would also like to say Hellraiser rule. Okay, let's call it rule number 69. If you find yourself in a sexual rut, please do not bring a haunted/cursed object into the mix. It will not end well for you. But I am very excited for this. That is The Game in Yellow by Hailey Piper, coming out August 12th from Saga. And ending August with This Is My Body by Lindsay King Miller. This will be coming out August 5th from Quirk. Single gay mom Bridget always thought that cutting ties with her extremist Catholic family was the best thing she could have done for her daughter Dylan and for herself. But when Dylan starts having terrifying fits of unnatural violence, Bridget can't shake her memories of a girl from her childhood who behaved the same way, until Bridget's uncle, Father Angus, performed an exorcism. Convinced that her daughter is suffering from demonic possession, Bridget does the thing she told herself she'd never do. She goes home. Father Angus is the worst person she knows, but he's also the only person who can help her daughter. As Bridget starts to uncover secrets about Father Angus, that long ago exorcism, and her family's past, she realizes that she and Dylan have never been in more danger. This sounds so good, and it sounds like it's not going to be your average possession story from what I've heard. I do love religious horror, and I'm going to assume going to be tackling a lot of themes of bodily autonomy. So here for that. That is This Is My Body by Lindsay King Miller, coming out August 5th from Quirk. And coming out August 19th from Page Street, we have Feral and Hysterical, Mother Horror's Ultimate Reading Guide to Dark and Disturbing Fiction by Women by Sadie Hartmann. This is her follow-up to 101 Books to Read Before You're Murdered, and it sounds like it is going to be full of horror book recommendations for horror by women. So again, that will be coming out August 19th from Page Street. And also coming out August 19th, we have The End of the World as We Know It, New Tales of Stephen King's The Stand. This is going to be edited by Brian Keene and Christopher Golden with an introduction from Stephen King. And this has a pretty stellar lineup. Stories from Carolyn Kepnes, Catriona Ward, Paul Tremblay, S.A. Cosby, Tanana Reeve-Dew, Jonathan Jans, Nat Cassidy, Catherine M. Valente, Chuck Wendig. Like, I could go on. I mean, this is an 800-page anthology. I am currently reading this, and I am very much enjoying it. It's split up chronologically, which I find really interesting and also helpful. So that is The End of the World as We Know It, edited by Christopher Golden and Brian Keene. That'll be coming out August 19th. And with that, let's move on to September, because, oh my God, we are going to be here a while. There are so many books coming out in September, so buckle up. Let's start out with a book coming out September 2nd from Poisoned Pen Press. That is Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McAuley. Hannah has been running from her demons ever since she emerged from a harrowing wilderness trip without her fiancé. No one knows exactly what happened the day Ben died, and Hannah would like to keep it that way, even if his ghost still haunts her with vivid, waking nightmares that are ruining her life. So when her friend group gets an exclusive invitation to a restorative spiritual retreat in Joshua Tree, Hannah reluctantly agrees in search of a fresh start. Despite her skepticism of the strange guru packs and his belief in the supernatural world, Hannah soon finds healing through all the yoga, sound baths, and hot springs offered at the tech-free haven. But this peaceful journey of self-discovery quickly descends into a violent fight for self-preservation when a mysterious killer starts picking off retreat attendees in increasingly gruesome ways. As the body count rises and Hannah's sanity frays, she'll have to confront her dark past and uncover the true nature of a ruthless monster hellbent on killing her vibe for good. Listen, I'm a slasher girl to the end, so you know. I already read this, and yes, I loved it. I actually went to a panel that Brian moderated at StokerCon all about slashers, and it got me so excited about this new generation of slasher authors that are slasher fans and what comes with that. And one of those things is kind of messier final girls. And I think we see that through Hannah, who is grieving and isn't always pleasant and lashes out at her friends. And you know what? Maybe I'll have more to say on this in an upcoming episode, perhaps. But for right now, just know that I loved it. That is Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McAuley, and that is coming out September 2nd from Poisoned Pen Press. And coming out September 9th from Berkeley, we have Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. Cleo Louise Barnes leads a picture-perfect life as a stylist and influencer. But beneath the glossy veneer, she harbors a not-so-glamorous secret. She grew up in a haunted house. Well, not haunted. Possessed. After Cleo's parents' messy divorce, her mother, Alex, moved Cleo and her sisters into a house occupied by a demon. Or so Alex claimed. That's not what Cleo's sisters remember, or what the courts determined when they stripped Alex of custody after she went off the deep end. But Alex was insistent. She even wrote a book about her experience in the house. After Alex's sudden death, the supposedly possessed house passes to Cleo and her sisters. Where her sisters see childhood trauma, Cleo sees an opportunity for house flipping content. Only, as the home makeover process begins, Cleo discovers there might be some truth to her mother's claims. As memories resurface, and Cleo finally reads her mother's book, the presence in the house becomes more real and more sinister, revealing ugly truths that threaten to shake Cleo's beautiful life to its very foundation. I have already read this and absolutely loved it. I love stories that deal with the malleability of memory and the nature of truth, especially in complicated family systems like this. Cleo is a very charismatic and fun protagonist. I went to Rachel's author reading at StokerCon where she read the first chapter of this, and it was so fun because it's just such a fun voice. It was a great reading experience. I loved the excerpts we got of Alex's book. And if you've read things like Jay Anson's Amityville Horror, I found that it was a very accurate representation of like that genre of book at the time. So I just had a great time with it, and it was creepy and like, ooh. I think smiley faces might be ruined for me for a while now thanks to this. That is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. That'll be coming out September 9th from Berkeley. And on September 9th from Titan, we have We Are Always Tender with Our Dead by LaRocca. The lives of those residing in the isolated town of Burnt Sparrow, New Hampshire, are forever altered after 3 faceless entities arrive on Christmas morning to perform a brutal act of violence, a senseless tragedy that can never be undone. While the townspeople grieve their losses and grapple with the aftermath of the attack, a young teenage boy named Rupert Cromwell is forced to confront the painful realities of his family situation. Once relationships become intertwined and more carnage ensues as a result of the massacre, the town residents quickly learn that true retribution is futile, cruelty is earned, and certain thresholds must never be crossed, no matter what. I am looking forward to this one for a few reasons. One of them is that I believe this is the start of a trilogy. And 2, I really like small town stories, and in this case, following how a small town copes with an act of violence, like what is the fallout from that, is very interesting. And I mean, of course, LaRocca is an incredible writer, so absolutely. That is We Are Always Tender with Our Dead by LaRocca. That will be coming out September 9th from Titan. And coming out September 3rd from Sobolo Books, we have Shit Show by Chris Panettiere. After his mother is diagnosed with dementia, Sunday McWhorter needs a job with flexible hours and a company vehicle. It just so happens that the local porta potty company is hiring. The job stinks, but it's a solid paycheck that allows Sunday to take care of his mom. And everything goes smoothly until autumn and the beginning of county fair season, when people start going missing and body parts start being found. Inside the very tanks of the porta potties, Sunday is charged with cleaning. Is there a serial killer? A human trafficking ring? An epidemic of haunted toilets? Sunday finds out the hard way when the simple job of vacuuming sewage becomes a tussle between worlds. I mean, listen, with a pitch like that, what's not to love? Latrine technician versus dark carnival? But also, I am loving this maximalist, just off the rails, nutty, fun turn that horror has been taking recently, and I'm here for it. So that is Shit Show by Chris Panettiere. That'll be coming out September 3rd from Sobolo. And out on September 30th from Henry Holt, we have Showstopper by Lily Anderson. This summer's production is to die for. The Ghostlight Youth Theater Camp isn't the best program in the world, but to Faye, it's home. Every summer since junior high, Faye and her friends have come together for a month-long musical intensive. For her last year before graduation, Faye's finally ready to take center stage as her true Afro-Latina self and break out of her good girl princess roles. But as Faye steps into her spotlight, complications arise. Suddenly, she's competing with her BFF for lead roles and distracted by the attentions of the new camp hottie. Even when the drama turns deadly, Faye remains determined to make this the best production the Ghostlight has ever seen. It must be a coincidence that the stagehands keep disappearing and having gruesome accidents, right? But dark secrets are hiding behind the scenes, and opening night might turn out to be a bloodbath. Lights, curtains, murder. As a documented fan of Undead Girl Gang, I am so ready for this. Thank you, Adam Allen, for bringing this to my attention, because absolutely, like a summer theater camp slasher, hello, made for me. That is Showstopper by Lily Anderson. That will be coming out September 30th from Henry Holt. And on September 9th from Black Crow, we have Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson. It's the winter of 1975, and Portland, Oregon is all sleet and neon. Dwayne Miner is back home after a tour in Vietnam. A bartender, just trying to stay sober, save his marriage with his wife Heidi, and connect with his 13-year-old niece Julia now that he's responsible for raising her. Things aren't easy, but Miner is scraping by. Then a vampire walks into his bar and ruins his life. When Miner crosses John Varley, a killer who sleeps during the day beneath loose drifts of earth and grows teeth in the light of the moon, Varley brutally retaliates by murdering Heidi, leaving Miner broken with guilt and Julia filled with rage. What's left of their splintered family is united by only one desire: vengeance. So begins a furious, frenzied pursuit across the Pacific Northwest and beyond, from grimy alleyways to desolate highways to snow-lashed plains. Miner and Julia are cast into the dark orbit of undead children, silver bullet casters, and the bevy of broken men transfixed by Varley's ferocity. Everyone's out for blood. Obsessed with this as like a vampire revenge road trip story. And it also kind of seems like it's in this vein. At least I know Keith Rawson's previous duology was kind of in that maximalist vein. This, I'm telling you, horror is turning it up to 11 with these new releases, and I am loving it. That is Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson. And coming out September 1st, we have Broken Dolls by Ali Melanenko. 1, 2, 3. Are you ready to play? Ever since Kay's grandfather died, she's been obsessed with counting the steps to her bedroom, the dolls on her sister's bed, even the threads on her favorite blanket. It's arithmomania, and with the selective mutism that sometimes prevents her from speaking, she literally can't find the words to talk about how she feels now that Grandpa is gone. When they take the summer to clean out and renovate his old house, Kay finds herself counting the days. That is, until her younger sister, Holly, starts finding dolls. She finds them buried in the backyard, stuffed in the walls, crammed into the closets. From the first one, Kay knows they aren't like normal dolls. They smile at her like they know something, and sometimes their eyes open and close on their own. Kay hears her sister talking to them constantly, and she swears she's heard the dolls whispering back. Everyone assumes that Holly's just a kid with a good imagination. But Kay doesn't think this is a game, because she knows that Holly and the dolls are going to make her play with them forever. If there's one horror trope that gives me the creeps, you guys know it's a weird doll. Imagine a weird doll that's been shoved into a wall or buried in the backyard, and then it's blinking and talking. No, thank you. Absolutely not. With that said, I am very excited for this. Don't be sleeping on middle grade horror. There are a lot of gems to be found in middle grade. I enjoy them as an adult reader, as a mom to a kind of middle grade age son. I mean, I can see how important they are to speak to that age specifically. And I mean, in my case personally, my kids lost their grandfather last year. So it is important for them to have this type of media that speaks to the things they are going through. And this sounds very good. So that is Broken Dolls by Ali Melanenko, coming out September 1st from HarperCollins. And coming out September 16th from HarperCollins, we have Galloway's Gospel by Sam Rebeline. 2009. Rachel Galloway is bored in class. She spends the dreary fall days sketching in her notebook, adorable pigs munching on her boring teachers, and imagining a utopia where all the horrors of Burnskiddy High School disappear. But when her classmates start to believe this utopia could be real, Galloway finds herself at the center of an elaborate and quickly spreading new religion. Before long, the town is split between believers and non-believers. As tensions rise and the rituals become more dangerous, Galloway can't be sure what's real and what's not, or who she can trust. 2019. This is the cryptic message that Renfield County Guard Rachel Durwood receives from her colleague Mark, mere days after he's disappeared. Mark's note leads Durwood to the town of Burnskiddy, famously sealed off from the rest of the county 10 years ago. Now she discovers a small, insulated community preparing for the rapture and seemingly their collective demise. In order to save Burnskiddy from itself, she must piece together the fallout from 2009 and avoid being swept up into the monstrous cult herself. As Rachel Galloway watches her life spiral out of control, Rachel Durwood navigates a world where history, horror, and faith collide. Despite being separated by a decade, Galloway and Durwood may be closer to each other than they realize. But even together, will they be able to stop Burnskiddy's impending doom? This sounds so fun. I love the idea of a teen girl accidentally starting a cult. Iconic. I also love when an author has their own kind of universe that they play in. So I really like this like Sam Rebeline Renfield universe. I am currently reading his short story collection, The Poorly Made and Other Things. So I'm wondering if that will give me like needed context going into this book, but it sounds great. That is Galloway's Gospel by Sam Rebeline. That will be coming out September 16th from HarperCollins. On September 23rd from Tor Nightfire, we have Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. Kinsey has the perfect job as the team lead in a remote research outpost. She loves the solitude and the way the desert keeps her far away from the temptations teeming out in the civilian world. When her crew discovers a mysterious specimen buried deep in the sand, Kinsey breaks quarantine and brings it into the hab. But the longer it's inside, the more her carefully controlled life begins to unravel. Temptation has found her after all, and it can't be ignored any longer. One by one, Kinsey's team realizes the thing they're studying is in search of a new host, and one of them is the perfect candidate. Personally, I love that Sarah Gailey dared to ask, what if the thing was horny? And boy, oh boy, is this horny. This was one of the books we mentioned on the Buzzing About Books panel. This was one of Emily Hughes' books. And she was like, this one's for the freaks. Like, raise your hand if you're a freak. Because, yeah, Kinsey, if you couldn't tell from the synopsis, there's just something she's into. A very interesting thing that she's into that will come into play in the book. This was so fun. Also, such a quick read. This is, I think, under 200 pages, and it's a great time. Highly recommend. That is Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. And on September 23rd, we have Why I Love Horror, Essays on Horror Literature, edited by Becky Spratford. Becky Spratford has worked in library and reader advisory and with the HWA for a long time, and she has compiled this amazing essay collection where authors have written essays about, you know, their stories with horror, why they love horror. So essays by Grady Hendrix, Paul Tremblay, Stephen Graham Jones, Josh Mallerman, Victor Laval, Tananarive Due, Rachel Harrison. You do not want to miss this if you are a horror fan. So that is Why I Love Horror, Essays on Horror Literature by Becky Spratford. That'll be coming out September 23rd. On September 16th, we have Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave by Ali Russell. 13-year-old Mystery, who was abandoned in a cemetery and raised in a funeral home, is plagued by sleep paralysis and the smell of ghosts. But she's used to that. Even though her life might seem strange on the outside, she loves it. That is, until a priceless heirloom goes missing and her family's funeral home is in danger of being shut down. To clear her Diaz good name, Mystery embarks on an adventure to figure out what really happened to the misplaced necklace. But to do so, she must contend with the angry patriarch of the town's wealthiest family, a sleep paralysis demon, a grave robber, and the ghastly half-vampire, half-ghost that's lurking in the old Ellistown cemetery. Well, this sounds delightful. It sounds like a good middle grade recommendation for someone who liked the Darcy Coates Gravekeeper books. I'm also very interested in a protagonist that can smell ghosts. I'm just very interested to see what that means. And if I had to pick powers, I don't know that that would be one that I would choose, but I'm very curious to read about it. So that is Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave by Ali Russell. That will be coming out September 16th. And coming out September 30th, we have The October Film Haunt by Michael Wehunt. 10 years ago, Jory Stroud was the rising star of the October Film Haunt, a trio of horror enthusiasts who camped out at the filming locations of their favorite scary movies, sharing their love through their popular blog. But after a night in the graveyard from Proof of Demons, perhaps the most chilling cult film ever made, directed by the enigmatic Helene Enriquez, everything unraveled. Now, Jory has built an isolated life with her young son in Vermont. In the devastating wake of her viral truth-stretching Proof of Demons blog entry, hysteria, internet backlash, and the death of a young woman, Jory has put it all, along with her intense love for the horror genre, behind her, until a videotape arrives in the mail. Jory fears that someone might be filming her, and the Rickies, Enriquez obsessives who would do anything for the reclusive director, begin to cross lines in shocking ways. It seems Helene Enriquez is making a new kind of sequel, and Jory is her final girl. Tell me that doesn't sound incredible, okay? From the moment this was announced, this became one of my most anticipated reads. And I understand that this whole episode is my most anticipated reads, but this one specifically, I recently went to the Pittsburgh Festival of Books, where my friend and frequent guest on the podcast, Jocelyn Codner, moderated a horror panel with Nat Cassidy and Alex Grecian and ML Rio. And I think Nat Cassidy said this was one of his book recommendations for like standout horror books he's read recently. So yeah. So that is the October Film Haunt by Michael Wehunt. And on September 30th, we have The Mean Ones by Tatiana Schlatt-Bahn. So what if Sadie hears talking dead animals and a strange, comforting male voice in her head? Her therapist insists these are just symptoms of PTSD. It makes sense, considering that she hid under the bed and watched as her best friends were slaughtered. But the murders were 17 years ago, back when her name was Sabrina. Now, she's Sadie, a perfectly normal 29-year-old. She works as a physical therapist assistant and lifts weights with her boyfriend Lucas, who's the sweetest, most considerate man, as long as he's not angry. But when Lucas spontaneously agrees to join a couple's trip to a cabin in the woods, the visions get worse. A strange figure stalks her during the night, and that male voice in Sadie's head keeps calling, asking her to do things she's never fathomed. Sadie's not sure if it's her paranoia or something else entirely, but she is sure of one thing. This time, she's not going to sit idly by as everything starts to unravel. As someone who loved such lovely skin, I am looking forward to this. And I do have to note that the comps for this are Midsummer meets the Final Girls Support Group. So I am very excited for that. That is The Mean Ones by Tatiana Schlatt-Bahn. Also, the cover for this, incredible. Love it. That will be coming out September 30th. Also coming out September 30th from Tor Nightfire, we have The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi. Rose is in her late 70s, living out her golden years at the Autumn Springs Retirement Home. When one of her friends dies alone in her apartment, Rose isn't too concerned. Accidents happen, especially at this age. Then another resident drops dead, and another. With bodies stacking up, Rose can't help but wonder, are these accidents? Old age? Or something far more sinister? Together with her best friend Miller, Rose begins to investigate. The further she digs, the more convinced she becomes there's a killer on the loose at Autumn Springs. And if she isn't careful, Rose may be their next victim. Who said we can't have a plucky 70-something final girl? Okay? No one. I am very excited for this because, as you know, slasher fan, but also slasher at the nursing home. Okay. Golden Girls meets Scream. Like, I'm here for it. That is the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi. That will be coming out September 30th. Before we move on to October, had to mention Hailey Piper's short story collection, Teenage Girls Can Be Demons, coming out September 16th from Titan Books. These are 13 coming of rage stories. I am very excited for this, as you can imagine. It says these stories take our most difficult years of transformation and twist them into new and terrifying shapes where the monsters are real and you'll do whatever it takes to get away or get even. Absolutely up my alley. Cannot wait. That is Teenage Girls Can Be Demons by Hailey Piper, out September 16th. Coming out October 7th from Tor Nightfire, we have Nowhere Burning by Catriona Ward. A refuge for lost children may also be their prison. In the middle of the night, Riley pulls her younger brother Oliver out of bed, and the two run away from home. Riley is intent on joining a group of teenagers squatting in the abandoned ruins of an infamous movie star's ranch, Nowhere. For actor Leif Winham, Nowhere was a place to hide from his fame and to hide his crimes, until a fire ravaged his home and exposed him as a murderer. It is rumored that the ranch, nestled in the peaks of the Rocky Mountains, is now home to a group of feral children, a place where adults cannot enter, and Riley hopes to find a new family there. But the Nowhere kids are fierce in defending their turf and their clan. Riley quickly realizes that while she and Oliver may have left the devil they knew, this group is a new type of diabolical. For something dark lives in the burned shell of Nowhere, something which asks a terrible price for sanctuary. And that sounds like a great way to kick off October. I am very excited for a new Catriona Ward book in the world. That is Nowhere Burning. That will be out October 7th from Tor Nightfire. And coming out October 21st from William Morrow, we have King Sorrow by Joe Hill. Arthur Oakes is an outsider. His mother is in prison. His father is long gone. So he spends his time lost in the legends of English mythology. Then one unintended incident, one moment of standing up for another underdog, leaves his mother in danger and him with orders to steal rare books from the college library. And the events that will unfold from that single act of bravery will lead to slaughter, because his gang of 6 close friends, all outsiders, intend to use a tome bound in human skin in an arcane ritual to summon the notorious dragon demon, King Sorrow, to kill their tormentors. They enter into a pact. King Sorrow will kill the couple who have been terrorizing the group in exchange for their worship. But dragons are not to be trusted, and soon they realize this isn't just revenge. They must repeat the ritual every year, including choosing who their king will kill next. I think it's been like a decade since we've had a new Joe Hill book to look forward to. So I know a lot of us are excited for that. I will say this book is gigantic, but it also sounds like we're following 6 characters over like 40 years. And I'm very interested in this whole, like, you make a pact with the demon and then expect it to follow your terms. That's not how it works. Put that in the rule book, okay? Don't summon demons and expect that they work for you. Anyway, sorry. That is King Sorrow by Joe Hill. That will be coming out October 21st from William Morrow. And on October 7th from Quirk, we have Crafting for Sinners by Jenny Kiefer. Ruth is trapped. She's stuck in her small religious hometown of Kill Devil, Kentucky. Stuck in the closet and stuck living paycheck to paycheck. After her manager finds out that she lives with her girlfriend, Ruth is fired from her job as a cashier at New Creations. a craft store owned by the church that dominates life in the town. In an act of revenge, Ruth attempts to shoplift some yarn, but is caught red-handed by a new creation's cashier. Instead of calling the police, the employees lock her in the store and attack her. When Ruth is forced to stab out one of their eyes with a knitting needle, she realizes she's facing far bigger trouble than a simple shoplifting charge. As Ruth fights for her life, she plunges deeper into the tangled web of the new creationists, who are hiding a terrible secret that threatens not only her, but the entire town. I have been looking forward to this, and Quirk does not mess around with their covers. I am obsessed with the cover for this. And I will say, I saw Jenny at StokerCon, and she was very sweet, and she gave me a little book pen with a Fear Street cover on it, the cover for Silent Night, and it was very cute, and I am adding it to my little pin board. I'm very excited for it. So thank you, Jenny. And this book sounds amazing. That is Crafting for Sinners, that will be coming out October 7th from Quirk. And on October 9th from Wild Hunt, we have Good Boy by Neil McRobert. After a boy vanishes on the outskirts of a small northern town, a woman spies from her window a mysterious man digging a grave in the exact spot of the disappearance. However, when she confronts him, the man's true purpose is far more chilling than she could have imagined, and the history of the town's fatal past unfolds. What has been hiding in this small northern town all these years? I know a lot of us in the horror community are very excited for the release of Good Boy. And if you hear the name Neil McRobert and you think it sounds familiar, maybe it's from his appearances on the Books in the Freezer podcast, but most likely from his own fantastic podcast, Talking Scared, where he interviews authors every week. I am very much looking forward to this. I mean, the comps for this are It meets The Fisherman and supernatural mystery in a small town. You know, sign me up for all that. That is coming out October 9th from Wild Hunt, and that is Good Boy by Neil McRobert. And on October 9th from Hodder and Stoughton, we have Itch by Gemma Amor. Josie's hopes of a fresh start are horribly derailed when she stumbles across a dead woman's decaying, ant-infested body in the woods. The grim discovery sends her into a downward spiral, forcing her to face uncomfortable truths about the victim and her own past, all whilst battling the swarming black ants that seem to have burrowed into her mind and her flesh. As Josie struggles with infestations of all kinds, she scratches the surface of an age-old mystery. A masked predator stalks the forest around Elwood, a place deeply gripped by ancient folklore and strange customs. So when the village dresses up for its annual festival, Josie gets closer and closer to unveiling a monster and begins to ask herself, are these dark, crawling insects leading her to uncover the truth? Or is she their next victim? I feel like this is one of those books that when you read it, you're just always going to feel like ants are crawling all over you. But it is beautiful. It is like a very striking hot pink cover. And I'm very much looking forward to this one. That is Itch by Gemma Amor. And moving on into November with Shiny Happy People by Clay McLeod Chapman. This will be coming out November 11th from Delacorte. At 16, Kyra is still haunted by the horrors she saw growing up with her drug-addicted mother. She doesn't feel like she belongs anywhere, and disturbing dreams come to her at night. When a new party drug makes its way to her high school, Kyra's life becomes an actual nightmare. A video challenge spreads among the students, and though she doesn't participate, Kyra can't escape the inexplicable side effects. Everyone around her seems to be mysteriously changing, including the people she loves the most. Her brother has a new personality overnight. Her best friend suddenly feels like a stranger. The only other person who seems to notice the eeriness is Logan, the new boy at school. Like Kyra, he has steered clear of the party scene. When the strangeness begins to feel sinister or unnatural, Kyra is determined to find out exactly what is behind the mysterious drug. As she and Logan get closer to the truth, the line between Kyra's past and present blurs, and she will need to face the terrors inside herself or lose everyone she loves. Okay, I am very interested in this. It's giving disturbing behavior a little bit. Yeah, so this is Clay's YA sci-fi horror novel, and he also has a short story collection coming out this year called Acquired Taste. So big year for Clay McLeod Chapman. This is Shiny Happy People, and it will be coming out November 11th from Delacour. And on November 18th, we have My Name Isn't Paul by Drew Huff. He's a traveling salesman named Paul Cataneo, except he isn't, because he's a mirror person, a hyper-empathetic, eldritch abomination capable of mimicking any human. Paul found the human Paul Cataneo's mangled corpse 7 years ago and decided to mimic it. It's just what the mirror people do. Okay, well, that sounds terrifying. This is a cosmic horror novella. It sounds so weird and so creepy. So I am looking forward to that. That is My Name Isn't Paul by Drew Huff. That will be coming out November 18th. And finally, on to December with Dark Sisters by Christy DeMeester. This will be coming out December 9th from St. Martin's Press. Anne Bolton, a healer facing persecution for witchcraft, bargains with a dark entity for protection. But the fire she unleashes will reverberate for centuries. Mary Shepard, a picture-perfect wife in a suffocating community, falls for Sharon and begins a forbidden affair that could destroy them both. And Camilla Burson, the rebellious daughter of a preacher, defies conformist expectations to uncover an ancient power as her father's flock spirals into crisis. 3 women, 3 centuries, 1 legacy of fury, love, and a power that refuses to die. I am so excited for this. This is a 3-timeline historical horror full of female rage and revenge, and I am ready for it. I am ready for it now. So that is Dark Sisters by Christy DeMeester. That will be coming out December 9th from St. Martin's Press. So those are the books I am looking forward to that will be releasing in the second half of the year. As always, there are probably books that I missed. It happens. But please let me know which books you are looking forward to the most. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening. I have been your host, Stephanie Gagne, and see you next time on Books in the Freezer.